will say that our business is stronger than it has ever been.
The success of growth and where I see companies growing consistently really is your people.
I mean, the story is not, does it make power? Because they all make power. The story is, what does it power?
This is what solar installers need to know with your hosts Hervé Billier and Joe Marhamati.
Hi there, it's Hervé and Joe with what solar installers need to know, where we interview solar CEOs and experts on how they run their business on the solar coaster. We ask their private revenue numbers, we give actionable advice, and learn about trade secrets so you can run and grow your solar business. Joe and I built a solar company from 0 to 12 million in sales and got successfully acquired. If you'd like to do the same or do better, go to sungro.com/blog to get actionable behind-the-scenes lessons on running and growing your solar business. And now, without further ado, let's jump right into the next episode.
Hey, Ravi, welcome back to the podcast, What Solar Installers Need to Know. How you doing?
Doing great, Hervé. Thanks for having me back again.
Yeah, you're the first person that I invite twice on the podcast. So congratulations. I'll send you a medal of some sort, certificate later on. We recorded before RE+, and now we record after RE+. The goal is to go through the things that we learned that kind of stood out and also talk about your $2 taco party and what we learned there. So how did it go?
It was really awesome. I mean, one, there was so much like doomerism, after the HR1 was passed and all of this media of residential solar is dead and blah, 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 and really took a beating. And so I think because of that, people were just there was a lot of negative sentiment in the industry, especially in the residential sector. You know, those are at least those of us that are focused on homeowner value, like there was negative sentiment and people writing about it. But going in, it's like yourself, me, and others that are posting a plan to reduce costs and increase value and increase our volume of deals that we do by reducing waste and kicking out bad actors. Like, I think that we're providing hope, and hope being the active word, which is a passive word. It's like, I think it'll get better versus like, I am working to make it better. That's why we're hopeful, is because you and I and others are saying, hey, here's how we're going to reduce, this inefficiency. Here's a new technology that can take care of this. And we're showing our installers and working with our installers to have a plan beyond the tax credits. Like, what happens beyond 1231? Here's how we grow the industry together. Here's how we kick out the bad actors and provide greater value to our homeowner customers. And because of that, the intervening time between HR1 and RE+ and the amount of content we've all put out, the vibes were great, as you said. People were, it's like, okay, this is what we're doing. We're actively moving towards preparing our business for this change.
Yeah, so going there, I really like saying doom and gloom. Plus, it was not just in the media. I mean, we know several people that just don't have a business anymore. They had to close for multiple reasons. Some reasons we don't know, others we can only speculate about. But then, some companies went under. But my big takeaway is what I also wrote as like the solar coaster. Let's call it a solar ladder. We're actually more in control of our businesses than we give ourselves credit for. So there are certain things that we can do to adapt. For the last podcast, we had the idea to create a bingo card, right? About what can we do for the $2 a watt?
Yeah, your implementation of that was awesome. And having that people play out, I don't know how many were dropped off at your booth when it was complete, but like everyone at the taco party loved it. And if nothing else, it's a great conversation starter. And it's like, how are ways that we can improve our efficiency, improve our margins while reducing costs for our customers?
And it's complex, right? It's not just a typical. My first reaction was like, well, you need to negotiate harder with your distributor, like get the price down of your hardware. That is not all of it, right? Your hardware is not 100% of your cost. Far from it. It's like 30-40% max, something like that. You need to spend time on the rest of it.
Yeah. And there's this, I had a few conversations with installers. Hey, it's like, I don't think I'll be able to get down to $2 a watt, but I'm providing great value. And it's just like, okay, like overall, yes, you are providing great value to the homeowner, to the community, to the grid, to the world. I agree with that. And at the same time, is there a great value to having one of your employees input the address of the home into 5 different pieces of software? Is it a value of inputting that information a second time or any of that information? Because if we have the information up front, why isn't it just transferred through? There's so many steps in there that we have humans do what software does better. Whenever I get this pushback, I see that scene from The Office Space in my head. I carry the plans over from product over to engineering. And it's like, I'm a people person, damn it. Rah! It's a funny scene, but this is kind of what we're saying as an industry. It's like, I'm providing value, but I'm doing these steps, which are just waste. And it's just like, let's remove those things. So we're actually providing greater value at lower costs. And that's what this $2 a watt message and mission is about increasing margins for the strong tail installers, reducing costs for the homeowner and the electrons that are produced that then go into the batteries that then go into the grid, that are used to fuel their vehicle, their new EV, that are used to power their heat pump and other electric machines in their house. Like that's it. We're providing greater value to them, increasing margins for the strong tail installers, doing more business overall. And we're turning residential solar from a bill savings value creator for that individual household to critical infrastructure for the entire grid. So it's now creating value for all the homes around it and the entire grid. So it's a transformation that the only people that will, and entities that should be, negatively impacted by this change are the predatory sales and finance companies. Like if you're charging, 30% sales commissions, this is definitely going to negatively impact you. And good, like that business model should not be here. You're charging 30% dealer fees. Stop. Like bring it down below 5%. Yeah. Change your capital structure or go finance something else. Like this is what we need to do as an industry. So it's
Let's
this
speak
is
about that.
where the industry needs to go.
Let's speak more about that. Like I am actually not in contact a lot with people that have like those high dealer fees. It is not our target audience at Sunvor. It is not who I knew in the Amicus network when I had a solar company. So I'm actually not well connected in that people doing that. But maybe the reason why they do it is because they have a set way of doing it. Maybe we just need to speak about how others have been doing it without having a 30-40% dealer fees. When we had a solar company, you pay your salespeople. We paid them a fixed flat base. And then on top of that, they receive 5% of whatever they were selling. Like across battery, PV, adders, everything, just 5%. But we also gave them leads. They didn't have to go and knock on doors or anything like that. We had a strong brand that we built and they benefited from. They didn't have to pay for leads. They didn't have to invest in marketing. That was all paid for by the company. They received business cards. So everything was paid for them. If they needed a car, I think we reimbursed some fuel at some point. So there is a company with a set structure that allows a salesperson that they don't have to invest themselves money. So sometimes I hear some of those salespeople, they have to set up their own Facebook campaigns and kind of run their own little contracting business. So maybe that is part of the issue, that it doesn't have to be like that.
Exactly. And it's part of the waste. And I want to, clarify my statements of like the entire sales, like the sales apparatus. Like that's what this is. It's like there are setters and closers and appointment setters and all of these different like entities and the Facebook marketers that sort of lead into this. And it's like everybody, like they have to get paid. They have to feed their families. So like those are all adding costs. And that's like why these sales are so expensive. And they're not necessarily predating upon the homeowner until any one of them, starts not disclosing and doing bait and switch and other things. So there are other predators. There's the inefficient processes. And then there is, to your point, there's a way that we've done things. And it's like in the primary capital of the residential solar industry has been your typical capital markets capital, dealer fee plus, reduced interest rate. And that, again, it's just like this marketplace lending model, which is sort of like the generic term for it. Very big within the tech ecosystem to like 2013 to 2016 was sort of the biggest launch of any sort of marketplace lending. It was like, okay, you go out, you borrow, you get a 3 or 5 year like warehouse line of credit, $100 million, let's say it's 5%, whatever it is. So then you have
when you
to
say
take
warehouse, let me
your
clarify.
5-year debt, turn it into
There are solar installers listening. So warehouse is a terminology in the financial space. It's not a warehouse with inventory and solar batteries and panels in it. The warehouse that you speak about is a financial term where a company, a financial institution can get access to a warehouse, which is basically access to a large sum of credit, right?
Yeah. So that's exactly it. So they're sort of drawing on that line of credit to fill this up, and they have to pay it back within that, those 3 or 5 years. So they need to make hundreds of millions of dollars worth of loans, create a portfolio, and then sell them off, either a securitization or secondary sale, have the capital, pay back that original line of credit, then they can get another line of credit. And it's like this revolving model. That's a lot of how our industry was built. You promise the 10% bill savings, great for that homeowner. Then in order to, fill those loan portfolio, you need to hire salespeople. So because it's a dealer fee model, it's just like, okay, then that the person who's in charge of the sales is in charge of choosing what financing option is being offered to the homeowner. That's best for the sale, not necessarily best for the homeowner. And so it locks, like these things lock a lot of things in place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the installers want that fast capital, so they use that. And now, to offer those low interest rates, we're seeing back when I switched from deployment into finance, dealer fees were in the 8 to 12% range. Like in 2015, we thought that it was too high. Now average is like 37%. And these are adding, and then that's on top of the sales commission. So you might have $1,000 solar system and $10,000 of sales commission. And then you're adding another $10,000, $15,000 on top of that. And so you're borrowing $45,000 to pay for a $20,000 solar system. And since all of that's like, oh, this is part of the cost of the sale, taking the entire tax credit on that. And so it's like, this has all just been like, hey, this is how it's done, right? And so changing that model is difficult for all of us. And so
speak about the changing model then,
We don't-
Ravi. Like, here comes the drum roll, and now you can speak about how Atmos is doing it differently.
Yeah. And so, Atmos was created to just, to basically, we charge a very small processing fee. And then we let our credit unions, as if you went straight to that credit union, we let them charge the rate that they charge for a solar loan. But it all comes through our software. So you get that instantaneous or near instantaneous decision with it's a near cash cost credit union or bank loan. And so it's, it's more transparent. It's still just as fast. And ultimately, it's much lower cost. We all know that the average life of these loans are like 6 to 7 years. So that's what's modeled. The data show that a lot of people are paying back their loans in this time. And so if you have a low interest rate and a very high fee, you need to hold that loan for 20 to 25 years to get your money's worth. If you have no fee and a higher interest rate, the faster you pay it back, the less interest you pay, the cheaper your system overall. So by switching this model, we are saving thousands of dollars for homeowners. And ultimately, when you reduce that cost, the electrons that are produced are cheaper. So the dollar per kilowatt hour cost in this new model is significantly cheaper. And now they're more valuable in that battery or for that heat pump. So it's about accelerating the sales and the use of this system.
Ravi, I'd like to have your opinion on like a summary of how the model financially works. So basically, solar is unsecured. Very few systems being, if you stop paying it, people not going to come out and take it off your roof, right? The cost there is just prohibitive of doing that. So basically, it's an unsecured loan. So Ravi, if you have an unsecured loan, you pay down some points, but at the same time, at some point, somebody else needs to buy over that loan. So you kind of give them some money of the dealer fee to make that loan more attractive since it's unsecured. But at some point, like, people need to buy up those loans and aggregate them. And so there is the problem that you need to make that loan more attractive and use those points, those dealer's fees to achieve that. That's the problem, right?
That is one of the challenges of that traditional model, of that dealer fee model. So even though those financiers are charging 30 to 40 dealer fees, they're not keeping all of it. So again, it's waste in the system, because they then, because they're offering a 2 to 4% interest rate loan when the market rate is more like 7 to 8%. So now, like you said, they're trying to sell off that pool of 2% loans that nobody wants. And they're like, wait, well, here's a couple $100,000. Here's millions of dollars of the fee. So it's just a transfer of value from the homeowner to whoever's buying that loan.
Now,
But
an additional
instead,
problem is
the
that
market rate,
if those loans don't get paid immediately. If those loans don't last, sorry, for the term of the loan, but just are paid in like a few years, the dealer fee that was used to make that loan more attractive, if the loan only lasts 6-7 years, now those financiers that buy this, they make all their money up front in a very short amount of time. Those people seem to be like winning in the entire solar game. A solar company runs on like what, 5%, 3% profit margin total, but the people that buy those loans, they walk away with a lot more nicer percentage point of the entire pie.
Well, I mean, it's you know, them, even the ones that are purchasing those loans. So it's like they're getting money up front, but the interest rate on those loans, it's like what they would expect for them, is much less. And so it's like basically to go from that, 199 up to a 6 or 8%, whatever they're expecting, that yield, they need that upfront cash to make it work. And so it is literally just like, then the exact same thing is like if a credit union like one of ours is charging 8%, now they just sell it at 8%. And just like, hey, this is a $100,000 loan, and they're buying it for $100,000. They don't need to, pay me $60,000. I don't need to give them an extra $40,000 to make it economic. It's just $100,000. So, basically there's no fat extra fee. So that homeowner who got $100,000 of solar system, their loan is being sold for $100,000 or near enough, versus that homeowner who got a $20,000 or $30,000 solar system, but they took out a $60,000 loan. Basically, there's just $40,000 being transferred from them to that other borrower because they got this low interest loan that they're then paying off in a few years, and they're not getting the value from that low interest rate. So it's, by changing this model, we're going to reduce the cost, increase the volume, and increase the value to the homeowner, their neighbors, the grid at large. And the same thing sort of on sales. It's like we need more channels, more price transparency, and the lower we bring down the cost, the more people are going to go solar. We make it easier for people to buy solar. Like that's where we should get to, is that people, it's like, hey, to one of your, they come to one of your installers, like on their website or their app, put in their address and their basic bill, and it's just like, I need a 7 kW system and one power wall, and that will take care of 95% of my bill, and this will pay back in 7 years. And it's $15,000 cash or a $16,000 loan rate. Now, let me choose one of those options, and here's a down payment. It's just like, let's make it easy for people to buy this from us. So we need to provide more data, more like upfront price transparency, so that they can make that decision, versus needing all of this complicated, over-engineered sales proposals that are super splashy. More and more people are becoming aware of it. And just be like, oh, here's my bill. Here's what solar can do for me. Here's the changing grid environment, and moving from a NEM to an NBT, or I like to call it NEM 4. NEM 1 is just like, the utilities throw in cash. It's like, hey, we're trying to incentivize solar, so we're going to pay you greater than retail. NEM 2 was, all right, retail only. As we know, is basically a very low volumetric rate, and then you self-consume to get your economic arbitrage. NEM 4 should be, hey, let's actually make this grid infrastructure, and that battery is deploying on a multi time per week basis. And so it's just like, hey, here's a spike. The spot price is at $2 a kilowatt hour. Great. Here's 15 kWh out of my batteries, and then it's going to refill off the cheap electrons. Like, this is where we need this is where the grid is going. And the faster we get there, the faster, the less time we spend in this solar only, solar bro sales, doldrums. It's just like, hey,
Yes.
this is happening because of, when we switched from NEM 2 to NEM, it was very sudden and there was no ramp. And so a lot of the salespeople weren't ready to sell batteries. And
I hope they are now.
it's
And
like,
those batteries,
this is
as
where
you
it
just
needs to go.
mentioned, should be
And so
part of
let's
the grid.
all become proficient in,
You mentioned, Ravi, with the batteries that are being sold, hopefully by solar companies that use a battery first approach, or at least not just PV only, but batteries definitely part of the sales pitch. I think those batteries need to provide a value more than just backup. One value you can do is with a virtual power plants. There's a lot of talks about it. And yes, Sunvoy, we're also working on that, to making those batteries more part of the solution and part of the revenue stream back to the homeowner. Now I want to go back, Ravi, to the $2 a watt bingo cards. I have it in front of me here, but I think there's a lot of different pieces here. And if you don't have it in front of you, haven't seen it, just imagine a bingo card, easy with basically each department of a solar company that needs to be optimized. And so we spend a lot of time, Ravi, about Atmos and reducing the cost of capital to that homeowner. We just spoke about a virtual power plant that can add value, but there are a lot of other departments there that need to be analyzed. So basically, think about all departments in a solar company. Each one of them needs to make a difference. And we spoke about different tools too. Make sure you bring the right tools to a solar job. But also, what other ideas do you have, Ravi, about reducing the cost of a solar company to do business?
Yeah. So there's a lot of automation, more software tools like Sunvoy that are creating a platform to build upon. Are what's needed. We're establishing direct pay relationships with distributors so that if you finance with us, we'll use that lower cost capital to pay for the equipment directly so that the distributors aren't adding financing into sounds and adding in margin, or it's not going on the installer's credit cards and using credit card interest rates to finance it. So those are some small things. Advocate for permit reform. If it takes a long time for permits to be approved or for interconnection in your area, these are things that we need to come together as an industry.
And check out Solar App Plus. If it's not in your area, you should definitely check it out. And it's funny what you mentioned there about putting out an address in multiple places and Solar App Plus. Sunvoy, we're going to combine those. So it's going to be one button in Sunvoy to just push everything into the Solar App Plus application. Just one more step to simplify it. What do you think about too many part numbers? So that you see some installers, they have so many types of panels, so many types of batteries. That's all a lot of training and additional overhead to keep track of all those moving parts, right? What do you think about reducing the number of panel brands, reducing the amount of batteries that you install, kind of consolidate there? Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Just the logistics and this sort of like, it's like because certain parts aren't acceptable in certain jurisdictions. I had one installer in California who was rejected for inspection because they used 3/8-inch bolts to hang a power wall instead of 1/4-inch bolts. These are stronger bolts, but they're not on the list. It's like, so if you're holding multiple SKUs because, again, that is a need for reform in the industry, and we can control that and influence it. Another great organization, Permit Power, is putting forward model legislation to states to standardize. So or having to track. That's another thing. Is like, I know many installers who work across multiple counties or townships that they keep a very complicated spreadsheet of like, oh, here's all the rules in this city or county, and here's all the rules in this one, and they have to go back and forth. That's a huge logistical cost and a pain in the butt. So there's this, and then on the equipment, it's just like some of the things may not properly work together. It's like the more you can standardize and streamline, that's going to be easier on the training, on the install, on the tooling that you have to have, on the balance of system parts space. The more things you have and the more types of things you have, the more space you have to have.
Yeah. Maybe we should have added another piece on the bingo card, like say no. You just brought up several pieces. Say no to one more panel brand, one more panel wattage, and so on, one more battery, but also say no to distance. We had like I think a 60-mile radius, something like that, around our warehouse, and I saw one lead being discarded because it was 61 miles away from the warehouse. I'm like, come on, guys, why do you say no to it? But then I instructed my team to reject leads more than 60 miles. And the reason is that it's not just a one-time drive. The salesperson goes out once, back and forth, that's 2 extra miles. And then the site visit goes out 2 extra miles. And then the team goes out. And then, for maintenance, maybe you need to go out back again. So that 1 extra mile is actually significant when you look at all the projects that you do. So you need to start saying no, maybe around some counties. We've done business in one specific county far away, and you pull up the business license, you pay fees everywhere for just one project. Maybe we should have said no to that one single project. And like, we'll keep you on the list. If you have 5 more projects in your county, we'll come out. So maybe say no would have been like a good item to add on the bingo card.
Yeah, and I think that brings up another opportunity here as well, is that, software platforms like yours or ours, where we're getting in this, it's like, hey, we've got this 60-mile radius. It's like, well, maybe, just like you can, it's like, hey, that lead came to your installation company, but it's at 61 miles, but that's, 40 miles for me. And so you
Mhm.
pass it over to me and I give you a small, it's like, hey, thanks, brother. Let me take you to dinner. Like it's not like, hey, give me $5,000 like you're a door knocker, but it's like, let me give you something. Like you're passing that over to me, and it's like I'm gonna buy you an Xbox game or a Lego set. Like those things are very expensive, but so it's just like let's compensate each other. Let's support each other. It's like, hey, I don't want to do. It's like, oh, you get out that 62 miles and you forgot something. Now you got to drive back and get. Like you said, it gets expensive if you just go out a little bit more. But if you pass it off to another friendly installer that's, on team $2 a watt here, they compensate you a little bit. And then like you don't have the extra cost, you get a little extra cash. And overall, now they get a lower cost system because there isn't the added expense.
All right. Ravi, thank you very much for being a second time on What Installers Need to Know. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah. Third time next year. We're going. Let's do it.
We'll do it. Thanks, Ravi.
Thank you for
If you'd like to do the same or do better, go to sunvoy.com/blog and get actionable behind the scenes lessons on running and growing your solar business. If you'd like to do the same or do better, go to sunvoy.com/blog and get actionable behind the scenes lessons on running and growing your solar business.